The business owner often doesn't start out with a strategic plan.
Yeah.
And that is so crucial. Another mistake, businesses make this too. I mean, like business owners and corporations, where they put people in the wrong slots. And then you have two choices. You either redesign the role so that it matches their strengths, so that they excel and they want to come to work every day, or you don't have a good match for them, and then you have to move them on. You need to at least have a 3-year outlook so you have an idea of where you're going, have some type of roadmap. Really, 90% of your day as a leader should be communicating.
That's good.
Right? To make sure that things are flowing right. If you write something down, there's an 80% greater chance that you'll achieve it. But you also, if you write it down, think about that. That means you're like committing, right? You're making a commitment. So I'm in another group. Why would I not introduce you to someone in my other group that I know you guys serve the same client? So you could be great referral partners. But I just don't see people thinking that way.
Be seen, be heard. Radiance Videography Podcast.
Hey, what's up, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of Radiance Videography Podcast. We're so excited to be able to have our friend Sue Neumann here today. Thank you so much, Sue, for being on our podcast. I'm really excited about this one. Sue is like I would say the expert at networking. She has a ton of strategic planning background, management, things of that nature. And so we're really excited to be able to glean some wisdom from her today. Again, like I said, thank you so much, Sue, for being on our podcast.
Oh, I'm really thrilled to be here. So.
Well, cool. Well, I thought we'd start out by talking a little bit about your background, kind of where you got started, some of your history, like in management, strategic planning, and some of the things that we've talked about, and then kind of how that's led you to where you're at today in the networking world. And ultimately, I'm really excited too, because me and you have been talking about collaborating and working together, in business, and you coming helping us take this company to the next level. So I'm super pumped about that part of it. So maybe we'll get to that, but I'd love to be able to hear a little bit about your background.
Oh, sure. Okay. So let's see. I was born and raised in Wisconsin, and family of 6. And so watched my dad. He worked at John Deere. So that intrigued me because John Deere in a small community made the most money. Like if you went to work there, you would make the most. You'd make double of what other companies were offering in the area. So that was the first stint of my career. Is I worked there for 14 years. And it was during a time where
you bleed green?
Yeah.
That's what the John Deere people always say. I bleed green.
We were bleeding green, those tractors and everything. So anyway, but that was really a great educational experience for me back in that, I should say back in the day. It was more male-dominated industry, so you really had to fight a lot harder if you were a female working in that environment. So I learned a lot during those days. And then we got the bug to move where it was warm. So we spent
I don't blame you on that.
It was too cold in Wisconsin. So we moved away and we spent a year in Tucson, Arizona and loved it, but it was really too warm. And then we landed in St. Louis in 1993, the year of the flood.
Oh, yeah. I remember that.
Yeah, that was pretty trying, trying to raise 2 small children and not knowing anyone and starting over, basically. But so anyway, it took me a couple of years, got a few different jobs, but then I landed with a smart energy company called Landis & Gear. And that's where I gained a lot of experience in management, like you said, strategic planning, budget planning, operations management. I spent 24 years with them, managed many different departments in the entire operation in St. Louis for about a period of 3 years. So that was really good. All the while I did that, the 2 corporate stints in my career, it lasted 42 years. I always had a side business because I thought it was smart to have a plan B.
I agree.
And have something to fall back on. So I always did that. And I had a strong entrepreneurial spirit that I always just wanted to have my own business.
That makes total sense because, I think even now today, there's not really the security that they used to have of working in one job for all your life and then retire. Like there's not many people that are able to do that these days.
Oh, right. And one of the things that I've been noticing when we were talking a little bit before about strategic planning and networking and things like that is the business owner often doesn't start out with a strategic plan.
Yeah.
And that is so crucial. You need to at least have a 3-year outlook so you have an idea of where you're going, have some type of roadmap, and then keep backing that up, back into each year and then each month and each week so that it makes sense budget-wise, equipment-wise, like with what you have here in the studio. When am I going to buy my next piece of equipment? How am I going to afford that? How many clients do I need? Just those things are crucial. And what is my marketing budget? That is, you can't just spin up a business and expect everybody just to be knocking on your door, because it doesn't work that way.
So true.
So you really need to think through a strategy to make that happen. And there's a lot of different ways to do that, but I'm a real black and white kind of gal. And the one thing at corporate America, they always said, don't sit across from Sue in a room because you would get all the assignments. So that was true. And I liked getting things done. So when I would take over a department, it would take me about 2 years to hire and fire people, because often another mistake, businesses make this too. Like business owners and corporations, where they put people in the wrong slots. And then you have two choices. You either redesign the role so that it matches their strengths, so that they excel and they want to come to work every day, or you don't have a good match for them, and then you have to move them on. And that's crucial for the team environment, for just to get your ROI up, because it would take me about 2 years to get the right team in place, get them really rocking and rolling, getting your processes outlined, everybody understanding communication's so key.
Yeah.
So many companies don't understand that really 90% of your day as a leader should be communicating.
That's good.
Right, to make sure that things are flowing right.
Me and Emil my buddy were talking about this a few podcasts ago about it's like, if you don't love what you do and you're not excited about it, it's not good for you or the company.
No.
So why stick around? It's not, it's just toxic for both people.
Right. I used to say to people, okay, tell me what makes you want to just fly out of bed in the morning and run to work. What would that be?
Yeah.
And if they couldn't come up, sometimes you would get individuals that really just didn't know, so it'd say, okay, well, let's look at what are some of the things that you like to do? And then maybe we can map that out into a role that you can excel in the job, because otherwise. So the goal for me when I was working in corporate like that was to rebuild the team and the processes and so forth and the communication, and then get their ROI up by about 50%. And that is very doable when you've got a team that really loves what they're doing and they're great at it.
Yeah.
And then it makes leadership's, role so much easier, because, I'd get to the point where I'd say, hey, I got the dream team and now I can sit back and
Absolutely.
And the same with the business owner. You can do the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah, if you're jazzed at what you do, you get excited about it and you're more creative, you want to come up with new ideas and how they make processes better and whatnot. But man, I would found myself for quite a few years on the other side of that, of just not liking work, coming in with a pit in my stomach and just dreading looking at the clock, when am I going to get out? And that was miserable for me to be in. But yeah, it's definitely not helpful for the company.
Yes. And there are so many. I was just talking to someone the other day that's in HR, and how she was feeling, the company doesn't value the HR department. And she's right about that. Often that happens because HR, human resources, there's a lot of intangible things that go on, right? That you can't, it's not like the budget where you can say, here's my income, here's my expense, and this is what I have left, and this is how well I can measure to that. It's hard numbers. I can see what I'm doing. But a lot of the things like training and coaching and encouraging and like that, moving them around to get them in the right slots and things like that, there's no immediate dollar sign that goes with it. Until, I will say this, until you try to bring someone on in haste, you hire quickly and they're not in the right fit and they cost you a lot of headache and pain, and then you have to start over training. If you measure the amount of money that takes, it's quite substantial.
Oh yeah, I could see that. That makes sense.
Right.
I've seen on the flip side too, where it's on the business owner side or the corporate or the management side, where they don't understand what motivates their employees too. So it's if they think it's always just about money, so it's always tends to be about the bottom line, and so they treat their employees just as a number.
And it's so interesting that you brought that up, because back in, I'm trying to think what year that was, things were really tough. And the company I was with, they were going through a buyout and they froze everything. So no one got an increase in pay, no extra benefits. Perks were taken away for about 3 years. And then they sold the company after that. But I remember, because I was working to finish my degree at Concordia University, because I was always trying to do that while raising the kids, and that was just too difficult. And so what happened was, here in St. Louis, I was helping with the operation downtown, and I made some decisions and changes that really, really helped financially. So the CEO flew into town and said, "What can I do for you?" And I said, "Well, I want to finish my degree, and I want to do the accelerated program." And he said, "Done, I'll pay for it." So that was amazing.
That's great.
And that is how I graduated from Concordia University with a bachelor's in management and communications back in 2004 here in St. Louis, because I was at their satellite office. But one of the things I remember distinctly was that we had to do a paper. It's like your thesis at the end.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, what do I want to do this on? And a lot of the classes seemed really easy for me because I've already was working. I was already managing people, so I could relate to a lot of it. So I decided to do a lot of research on what motivates people during low economic times, like when you don't get an increase in pay and you don't get, any.
Tell me more.
What is it? What is it? So in the end, after all the research and writing the paper, it was job design. It was, how does that match with what the person's strengths are? That's the end of the day, because they got to love what they're doing. And if they don't, they're just not that motivated, and it's hard to motivate them. So
I found that for myself, like I fell into videography by happenstance. I was a personal trainer before this, and I started, filming my own content, to help grow the business. And I'm like, man, I love this whole process. Like I could do this for a living. And a few years later, I ended up switching gears and start my own video company, and I just love that whole process of creating content and whatnot. And me and you have talked about this a little bit off camera about how, like, everyone's got those strengths and things that they're good at. When you put them in the right places, things can like really thrive. Like and it's what I'm really excited about, you coming along and helping me, because my strengths have not always been like the strategic planning and stuff like that. And you're really great at those pieces. And it's just so cool to be able to bring people's skills together to be able to make something actually like.
Well, and the thing is, I always look at it as it's pretty easy, right? But the truth of it is, a lot of people don't want to do it because they know that if you put something on, and you've probably heard this analogy before, if you write something down, there's an 80% greater chance that you'll achieve it. But you also, if you write it down, think about that. That means you're like committing, right? You're making a commitment to it.
A lot of people don't like commitment.
And they don't like commitment, and they don't realize that measuring to that, it doesn't mean you have to hit it 100%. I mean, I always say if you hit 80%, you're doing great. But the beautiful thing about measuring and holding someone accountable to those measurements is just seeing that, hey, we can celebrate how well we did, and we can talk about the things that derailed us and the obstacles. And in life, and no matter what it was, I remember when I was running the operation in St. Louis, we had 2 shifts running. My phone would start going off at 5 a.m, and it didn't stop until midnight. Like it was that kind of environment and stuff like that. But then I woke up one day and I thought, you know what? It's what's priority, right?
Yeah.
Not everything has to be solved today, right? And so it's about setting boundaries. It's about time management. It's about just communicating that, hey, you can call me starting at 6 a.m., but my phone goes off at 5. You know what I mean? And then don't call me unless the building's burning down today.
Yeah.
I'm going to take care of that tomorrow morning, that kind of thing. But there's so much to all that, because I do remember very well, especially working in a corporate environment, that I think many people might work in a state of fear of losing their job. So then they're always overworking, and they're not setting those boundaries and saying, hey, yes, I can get to this, but I'm going to do it tomorrow.
Yeah.
I mean, I get it that there's extenuating circumstances, but they're not all like that. So,
man, it seems so. I was actually just having a conversation with Bruce Sheridan, which you introduced me to, and he sat down on the podcast. I'm excited about that. But there was part of the conversation where we talked about how, like, I think a lot of it is just people haven't really set their priorities, like what's important. And when you really know your priorities, you know what to say no to and what to say yes to. And so often people are just saying yes to everything. And they end up, like Bruce said, they end up being really, really busy. And they're like, I feel good because I was busy, but like nothing really the ball never moves forward.
Right. And we were just talking about the 12-week year of that book and doing the priority. And I think that is so amazing. It's just a very simple concept, writing down on a piece of paper everything from a personal level and a business level, spiritual level, whatever, in your life that you want to get done in the next 12 weeks. And then putting number ones by the things that truly are most important. It doesn't all have to be, and it shouldn't be.
Yeah.
To balance your life out.
Yeah, he was saying, like, you end up being way more productive and getting way more accomplished when you've, like, well, he put it more of like the rocks, having these big rocks and like focusing on them and accomplishing them. Yeah. But he would come into businesses and he said, he'd say, list out things that are important, and it'd be a list of 40 different things. It's like, no, like, just give me like 3 to 5 that are, and like focus on those and accomplish them, and then you can move on to the next. And they end up getting all those things accomplished, but the ones that had like a huge list, most of the time never got any of them really accomplished.
Right, exactly. Yeah, so you need to, one of the best, I always say, bosses that I ever had is, he said, I don't want 20 goals, Sue. I want one. Yeah. I want one big goal this year. One big thing that we can make a great impact in the company. And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
And that was just way more doable. And we did make a big impact that year with just that one big project. So, because we all were very focused on it.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, that's so great. You have so many skills in the strategic planning and all that stuff. And then that you're, going back a little bit to your history, kind of right now, I met you through networking group called All Stars. We meet every week. Mm-hmm. And you've recently launched your own networking group, and you have a card ministry that you, can you maybe explain a little bit more of how you got into where you're at now currently and doing some of these things from where you just left off with the business management history that you have and all that, and kind of take us a little bit further in that story?
Oh, sure. So with always having the side business, I always knew I had to network or find a way, to get business, right? And especially when I was working a full-time job. So we moved here in 93, and I was doing a business. So I started joining different networking groups, at that time. Mm-hmm. So, along the way, really what happened is back in 2018, a dear friend of mine, well, that was the year I lost my mother as well. Oh. And a dear friend of mine lost her only child, her only daughter. She was 22 years old. And it's just the way, in those networking groups, it was the way, it just didn't seem like people cared that much. Mm-hmm. They were more concerned about each person getting their next deal or, not the human part of it. And I thought, I've got to step back. I cannot.
It's that real, like, superficial.
Yeah, it just wasn't. Yeah. So I was like, okay. So I prayed about it and started meeting with 2 ladies every month. And all of a sudden, one of them said, let's invite other people. And then other people started coming. And then I said, well, okay, if this is going to be a group, somebody has to own it. Somebody has to lead it. I would be happy to do that, but it has to be faith-based. It has to be God first, then family, then all the rest will come to you if you keep your priorities straight. Yeah. And let's teach business owners that. So I prayed a lot about it, and then God revealed to me that the name of it needed to be the Inside Network. And I said, well, what's that all about? And he said, well, I want you to teach the business owners how to live their life every day in gratitude, giving, and grace. Mm. And once you teach them that, they'll come into a relationship with me. but not until. So that's been the goal since 2018. So what, we're 7 years in. For 7 years, I've been holding meetings, holding wellness meetups, because I feel God wants us to treat our bodies as temples and take care of ourselves. We work so hard as business owners. We need to do that. So we've been doing that. We do the wellness meetup. We do a big monthly lunch meeting, and we always do a Bible study over Zoom every Thursday morning. So that's been really beautiful. And what I've noticed along the way is like people want to be cared about. You know, they often feel lonely in their businesses. They feel like, am I the only one struggling like this?
Yeah.
You know, I don't understand what I'm doing wrong, you know, or I just don't feel like I can get to the next level. And, you know, I don't know how, or, you know, that kind of thing. And often, and this is sad, I think, many times I've heard people pay thousands of dollars for a business coach that didn't take them to that next, you know, level. So I was very bound and determined, praying around all this, that the Inside Network would be an entity where we not only prayed for people, loved on people, supported people through their businesses, but we also find resources for them to help them through those tough times and to grow their businesses, you know, to be prosperous, because God wants us to be abundant. You know, He wants us to give back, you know. So it just continues to evolve. But then about 3 years ago, we were doing the Bible study. I was leading it. I was reading. We were studying the book, The Purpose-Driven Life by Rick Warren. And in that book, in one of the chapters, he says, have you written your contract with God? And I was like, no, I haven't. So he's like, you need to take time and you need to write down what it is you think, what that contract should read, what God has put you on this earth to do. What is your purpose? Your true purpose. So that's when I wrote that out on May 10th of 2021. I'll never forget it, because to this day, that's what I've been working on, is He's called me to help business owners, you know, what I've said, support, pray, love them, nurture them, but help them get their priorities straight and be that master connector that really can help them take their businesses to the next level. So, and then through all that, I was like, okay, so I started doing that. But He also said, you need to listen to me. And I was like, all right, so I'm going to start listening to Him. So I would continually get promptings where we would have our Bible study and we'd pray for somebody. It could be a business owner, it could be anyone else. Maybe they're, you know, here's the thing, right? Whether you're working a job for somebody or you have your own business, if your wife gets diagnosed with cancer, don't you think that's going to look a little different? Right? Yes. And you're going to struggle and you're going to need people to lean into and definitely lead into our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, right? I mean, you need to do that. But so many people don't understand that, you know, piece. So we love on them and support them. So that day, back in 2021, God started calling me. He said, I want you to drop everything, and this person's hurting. You just heard that on the Bible study. You need to take a package over them. You need to bring. So I started doing care packages, and I started handwriting cards in them. And I get some of the most beautiful notes back from people like, I can't believe you did this for me. You don't even know me. Yeah. And I mean, I just cried because you actually care, that somebody cares, you know, and I thought, wow. So then a year and a half ago, I'm on the beach because I'm also a travel agent. So I'm on the beach in Riviera Maya, Mexico with my husband. And this was in 2023, around October. And I mean, this has never happened quite this way, where He was very loudly saying, the Lord was saying, Sue, you need to send 1 million cards to the world to share my love and light. And I was like, what? You know, so I was, you know, this is one of those things you're looking around the room and you're like, who's talking to me? And and it kept repeatedly happening. Wow. And so I thought, okay, so I get home, I get on Bible study with the ladies, and Erin Dwyer Bush, who owns Senior Care Authority, she's an amazing Christian and just has a wonderful business that helps seniors too. So she says, Sue, you need to partner with Voice. They've been in business since like 1978. They're advocates for seniors across the state of Missouri that are in long-term care, and they have no one to be advocating for their health. So they write cards at Christmas. Their goal is 40,000 Christmas cards. So I started rallying people, and I thought, what a great way to network too. Like, we get people together in a room, we handwrite out a card to lift somebody up for a good cause, and we network at the same time. And so now we've been doing card parties like this for the last year and a half or longer. And I've been hearing some of the most beautiful stories about relationships are being made. People are getting business, from it as well.
Wow.
It's just been so beautiful. And we're getting close. We're over 19,000. We're headed toward 20,000 cards that have been handwritten.
That's so awesome.
Delivered. And now we partner with 5 nonprofits to serve them this way.
Yeah.
And now we're starting to get at-home card writers. So people that they don't necessarily own a business, but there's somebody maybe going through chemo and they just need a purpose, while they're going through that, to do something to make them feel good, So
that's awesome. I think the word driven might be an understatement for you. You're just such a good example. But it's done from such a great heart. And that's what's so cool, is because I've read a lot of great leadership books in the past, and there's so much great information, but I've seen where if you don't have the right heart, and you're not coming from the right place, and I think this is why Jesus talked about your heart condition so much. It's like you can tell a good tree by its fruit, and a bad tree by its not fruit or whatever, and cleaning up the inside, then the outside will be clean, and because all of the motives and all of our actions come from the heart. And if the heart isn't clean first, then you'll use good information to manipulate people.
Yeah.
And that's what happens a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And I love what you're doing because it's coming from a genuine, authentic love for God, and out of that, love for people.
Yes. It's beautiful. And then, for a long time after, we started doing all the cards and having the parties and stuff. And then God kept saying, when you do your networking, because we were trying to do a weekly networking meeting at a church, and, people just weren't getting it. And so I was like, okay, guys, we're spinning our wheels. So why don't we start a monthly lunch and try something different and partner with different networking groups? So I started reaching out to different groups, joining a couple other groups, and trying to say, hey, we have this monthly lunch. Because one of the things in networking, which I really do want to talk about that today, because one of the biggest mistakes people make in networking that I see is they join a group and they act like there's walls put up. Like, okay, I know this person in the group. I know Jason James. Well, so I'm in another group. Why would I not introduce you to someone in my other group that I know you guys serve the same client? So you could be great referral partners. But I just don't see people thinking that way and doing that. So I thought, well, this monthly lunch, we could invite people from all different groups, and that way they get in the same room, right? And get them meeting each other and really prospering that way. And that is really, I just got a beautiful story from a lady I met with this week. And one of the realtors I had invited to the group, well, she actually is like a financial coach where she helps people, and for free, because she works for a nonprofit. They do this for free. It's called Operation Hope, and it's amazing. I think it's funded by Regions Bank. Yeah. And they actually, if you were having trouble all of a sudden with your credit or whatever, they help you rebuild that and get back on track. So I just thought that was so beautiful.
That's cool.
She shows up a couple months ago. This realtor I invited, they met each other. Well, now Melissa's given the realtor, Trisha, 2 deals already. So you see what I mean?
Oh, that's so cool.
Because they made it.
Yeah, because I think in a lot of ways, the networking groups have this, we can only refer people inside the group, and this kind of that mentality. And it sounds like that's kind of what you're saying is we need to be able to branch out from that and not be so seclusive and
Yes, it's really key. And here's the thing. What people don't understand, if you join a group and they put up the walls like that, right? People are going to do business with people who they know, love, and trust. At the end of the day, they need to get to know you. They need to trust you.
Yeah.
So, and not everybody connects with, you can't force somebody. For an example, financial planning is really, there's a lot of financial planners out there, right? But I know for a fact that some of my travel clients in the past that may have been looking for someone, they wouldn't connect well with a male, but they connect well with the female. You know what I mean? So I refer to the female. And because you just, as you get to know people, it's like, okay, would they feel more comfortable with this type of person versus the other?
That makes total sense.
Yeah. Or like if I have a client and they just love videos and I can see they're really into that. Well, shoot, I would definitely connect to Jason because you have that in common, right? And then there may end up in business that way as well. But it's just people, the other mistake they make besides that, what I call the walls are up, they're not intentional. They don't take the time. They're like sit in front of people and they just want to right away make the sale. Yeah. Well, people want to get to know you. So you need to I use the formula called FORM. So F is for family. So when I meet with somebody, what I want to do in that magical hour is I want to find out about your family. I want to know where you were born and raised and just kind of things. Are you married? Do you have kids? What do your kids like to do? What sports are they in? Or are they not in sports? Maybe they love music, that kind of thing. And then O is for occupation. Now tell me, when did you start your business? What makes you unique? Who's your target market? Who is that? You know what I mean? Industry that you're going after, so that I'll always think of Jason. Like I had a financial planner, which I thought was so smart, a young man. And he told me, I want to serve young men in the trades that they just got married. They're just starting out. I want to serve them because I want to work with them through my whole life, because I'm young like them. And I understand what it's like to be young, but he was very specific. Wants people in the trades. I'm like, okay. That makes it easy to refer to them. So, but back to the intentional part too, is like, you've got to intentionally want, F is for family, O for occupation, R is for recreation. What do you guys all do for fun? Maybe we have a connection there, or I know someone else that, like, if you love soccer, I would introduce you to Brian, Wagner with the St. Louis Ambush team, that kind of thing. So you can find different ways that people could connect to one another and build a relationship, because it's all about doing that.
Yeah.
And then M, it's interesting because in the form term, M is for message. So like, what can I take to other people about Jason that is unique, right? That's going to leave that imprint in their minds. They're going to think of you when they want video production done, you know, or filming done. I'm changing that to mission instead.
Okay.
Instead of M for message, M for mission, because I feel every person God has put on this earth for a reason, and they should have a mission. Now, that might correspond with what they already do for their occupation, and it might not. But it's something to ask yourself and to really ponder and to pray about. Yeah,
you really helped me out in a lot of ways. Like even when I first sat down with you compared to whenever I met with other people in the networking group, because in a way, like there was, me and you have talked about this, but I used to be in MLMs and like multi-level marketing. And there was just like this years of like this pressure that was on me all the time to meet new people. And it was, I mean, in the time I spent away from my family doing it, like I'd be going up to Walmart with, people like, trying to meet people that like, just to say that I was like doing something, but there was this always pressure of getting new names. And it was very surface level driven. It wasn't like really authentic. And so like coming into networking on the, what we do is meet networking groups, in a way it was kind of like, man, I'm just going to build a relationship here and get to know them as a person. And if something, pops up where like they might, I hear of somebody needing their services, it'll happen kind of organically, but there's not much intention there, like you're talking about, like, right. And you started kind of asking me some of these questions. I'm like, oh, this is how you do it, But it's done in such a great, authentic way, and it's a caring that is like different than everything I had experienced in the past. So
that's good.
That was really, really helpful. And I'm still learning how to do all this right correctly without having like the what do you call it when you have that knee-jerk reaction of like, from stuff you've done in the past.
Yes. Like, and one of the other things, and I'm going to say this definitely so I don't forget, because I just got a phone with Joseph Luckett, and he wrote a book, 0 to 100. And I bring it up because I've been networking since 1993 in St. Louis. I've done all kinds of groups, and all kinds of networking training. But when he released his book, and that was maybe a year or two ago, it's such a quick read, I think 2 years ago, and it just hit everything. I mean, if you just read that, it does guide you through what you need to do. And so I highly encourage every business owner to read that book and make the conscious decision, do I have time to network?
Yeah.
Because time is one of the biggest things. You need to plan that out and schedule your time.
That's one of the questions I wanted to ask you, actually, as you were talking about. I didn't want to interrupt. Do you, going back to what we were talking about earlier, is like there's a lot of times there's certain things that you just don't like. It doesn't jazz you up in the business to do, and it's just not. You're never going to get excited about. And so maybe if you're that business owner that networking is just not your jam, or you don't have time,
right?
Do you think it's a better situation to maybe try to find somebody to fill that position that would be great at doing that? Or it just seems to me like if you're just doing. I mean, and I know in a lot of ways, as a small business owner, you don't have the funds to pay somebody to do that. Maybe there's different scenarios where you could get some, college students that need, forgot what they call it, but like internship type thing or something like that to help you. I don't know if those are solutions, but it just seems like, man, if that's not your jam and it doesn't energize you to do that, maybe
Totally agree.
Okay.
Yes. But here's the thing, the caution I would give you is that if you're going to go and hire someone to do that and be that for you, then they need to be an experienced networker.
Yeah.
And I took the Inside Network group. I offered the training. I walked them. We spent, I don't know, at least 10 weeks, I think, on Joseph Luckett's book. We just took some of it every week, and then we met again, and then we talked through it. Because it's really, really important. So if you're going to have somebody out and about doing that for you, that they really understand.
Yeah, and they're intentional. Yeah,
right, and they're intentional, and the part of, how can I say this, sitting down and doing a one-to-one, or as Joseph calls it, a caffeinated moment, when the person across from you, if everything is like, the whole hour's gone by and everything's been about that person, that's not a healthy one-to-one or caffeinated moment. You need to kind of take control of the situation sometimes, and that's why I would be prepared with questions. I know these questions by heart, so I don't have to have them written down or anything because I've been networking for so long, but also because I have such a genuine interest to get to know the person and understand what makes them tick and how can I help them? I come from a place of service and giving. And I think if everyone in networking would lead with giving like that, it would be a whole different world here. But it's just so sad because many don't.
Yeah.
They come from a place of, how can you help me?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it just, changes the game all together and isn't as effective that way. So
yeah, because I think it goes back to that heart condition. You can't fake if your heart's not really to help people.
Right.
Then you're always going to serve. You're always going to use people or information to get what you want.
Yeah. Right. And it's the hardest thing. I've sat through those one-to-ones before, and I'd be like, okay. And here's the thing. So if you have a great one-to-one with someone, it's very reciprocal. And it's, like if you're controlling it and you start with that for family, it's like, I'm asking you about your family, right? Well, then naturally you would want to know about my family, right? So back and forth. But if you have that and you have a great one-to-one, you feel like it's very reciprocal, everything.
Yeah.
Another mistake many people make is they just end it there. And it takes 3 one-to-ones to really get going. So the second time you meet, if you had a great one the first time, maybe if you both love, I don't know, music, or you love bowling or whatever it is, maybe you go do that together, but you start to build that relationship together.
This sounds like some good dating advice too.
Yeah. Probably is. Yeah. You know what's funny? There's a guy that he's been in tin for a long time, Mike Bitter. It was really funny because he always he goes, you know what? you don't want to marry the person, right? You know what I mean? It's like, don't act like they should want to marry you on the first date.
Right.
You know, it's like, have a few dates, do that, do something fun, and then get very intentional about how can we work together. So partnerships are really crucial too. And I know we're going to be experiencing that because we have Dina Wolf and we have Sarah Snyder and Jason Dames. Those three are, in my mind, when I was looking at what the three of you do, I was like, man, that is like a partnership that can be made in heaven.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed just meeting them last week and like getting to know their skill levels and the heart seems all the same, like you were talking about. And you had mentioned like this group is intentional, and obviously you know kind of picked out people that kind of had that same heart for people, which is awesome. Yeah,
it will be incredible. I already see so much happening with it, and that will happen with it. But there again, partnerships. So it kind of took me a long time to really figure that out because I was like, why do I feel like I'm always climbing up a hill, you know? And then I thought, wait a minute, you need to partner with people that serve the same client. Because if you have a service and this person, you know, they used to do that in, let's see, like a realtor, for an example, might be a good one, and an insurance person. Well, if a realtor's selling a house, you got to think about what are the other suppliers that she'll need. She needs a mortgage person, right? So they got that. They need an insurance person. So it's a really good, a financial planner would fit in there as well. So they ultimately could do so much business together in serving the same clients. But you have to really get to know your partners, date them for a while, right?
Right.
And then get into a serious relationship where you're doing that together. Yeah.
That's such good advice. So it sounds like, you know, those are the core like principles for networking that you'd say. Is there anything, you know, maybe talk to us a little bit about, you know, I don't want to keep it too long, but maybe we could kind of wrap up with this part. But I know that you're very, you know, missions oriented and you have just a heart for people. You were talking a little bit about your ministries. Where do you see all this like taking you in into the future?
Oh, wow. So one thing God has blessed me with is vision.
Yeah.
And he brings visions in and I'm like, oh my gosh, how is that going to happen? You know? So lately the vision, well, there's always been the vision that we're going to have this huge prayer service or praise service or something for business owners in St. Louis. That's going to come.
That sounds interesting.
Yeah, and another big vision is the top 100 Christians in St. Louis. And I'm supposed to get them all in a room. Wow. And with this beautiful concept of each person would bring $100. So that would be $10,000 that we could donate in one night to a nonprofit. So I see the vision of like, you know, maybe one nonprofit is selected or we have three of them up there presenting what they do. And then one gets first place, second place, third. So we give like, you know what I mean? 5,000, 3,000, 2,000. But it'd be so beautiful because the monthly lunch, we take a cash collection. I usually end up with about $200 that I give the nonprofit that day. But I'm just like, man, we need to make a bigger impact than that. We need to do something bigger. But that's when I was literally on LinkedIn and I saw something about Small Business Monthly. Somebody was voted the top 100. And I thought, why don't we have the top 100 Christians in St. Louis?
That's awesome. I love that idea.
Why don't we do that? And so that's coming. That's going to come.
Yeah.
Because I visited C-Suites for Christians. I met Chris Cooper. And this other gentleman walked up to me after the meeting and he starts talking about the very same concept. And I'm thinking, if that's not a God thing.
That is crazy.
Because I didn't say anything.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is with the card ministry, you know, the card parties are beautiful and partnering with the nonprofits, but I keep seeing, God keeps sharing with me that it will be worldwide, that we will have people writing cards at home across the globe. And then I just keep seeing this huge map at this big celebration, and then we're going to have lights that light up all over the map wherever we have card writers across the world.
Oh
and
my gosh.
When we get to the end of the service, that we're going to put that map and we're going to light it up.
That's incredible.
And that's been coming through a lot. So
That's such a neat thing. I need to connect you. Are you familiar with Thrive organization? They're like a pro-life organization. I've been able to film some videos for them, but
I've heard of them.
they're a nonprofit, but I think I definitely need to connect you with them. Bridget, she's the kind of the CEO.
Yes.
Great lady, very driven as well. But man, you guys might be able to really
Absolutely.
talk about all kinds of stuff. So.
It's all about partnerships.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, because I've been praying. This is so funny. Because we travel a lot, we've been in the travel business for almost 9 years. And we go to Nashville a lot. And so I had we're going to the Grand Ole Opry out by the Outlet Mall, the newer one, not the Ryman Center downtown, but we're out the newer one. And I always thought, gosh, wouldn't it be cool to talk to Dolly Parton, about this? Because she does the books for kids.
Okay.
And I thought, oh my gosh, we could do cards for kids too. It'd be really cool, right? With the book,
Yeah.
And so we've never taken a backstage tour. My husband said, let's take a backstage tour. I'm like, okay. So we're doing this. We come around the corner and this lady looks, no, she wasn't there, but this lady looks right. And she goes, and here are all the mailboxes for all the performers, all the celebrities. And she said, for an example, here's Dolly Parton's mailbox. And she looked right at me. And I'm going, oh, this is so weird. And she said, you can literally write a letter to Dolly Parton and mail it here. And we will put it in her box. And when she performs next, we make sure they get all their mail.
Oh my God.
So I thought, well, there's the door.
Yeah.
Now I just have to
That's
make it happen.
incredible. Oh my gosh. It's so cool to hear.
But that would be awesome.
Well, I love everything you're doing, Sue. Thank you so much for jumping on. I would think we could talk for hours, and we definitely want to have Sue back on. I forget which camera I'm talking. We want to have Sue back on for sure. Talk more about all the things, business, maybe dive in more of the specifics of strategic planning and things like that that can help people move forward, or more specifics on networking. If you guys have any questions at all, like you put them in the comment section below, we would love that. Is there any information you can give us of where people might be able to find you, or if they have questions for you, or email or social media handles that you could put out?
Oh, sure. So honestly, probably the easiest way now is we have on the Inside Network website. So it's the THE Inside Network STL.com.
Okay.
And if they go there, there's a contact.
Yeah, we'll be sure to put that in the description below as well.
Yeah.
So
there's a contact button or whatever they can click on. So that's probably the best way, right?
Yeah. There might be people out there that are interested in getting involved in the ministry, and so we definitely want to be able to put those links out. So thank you so much, Sue.
You're welcome.
We're so excited. Can't wait to chat again. Till now, that's the end of we're going to wrap it up. So hope you all have a great day. God bless, and peace.
Good job.
That was fun, man. I love doing this. Thank you, Grant, for me.